The New York Yankees are at it once again, making a couple of different moves in the last few hours. Welcome in here, the MLB Hot Stove Daily here at the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. We'll recap the events that have kind of encapsulated the remaining hours of the winter meetings. The winter meetings are indeed over. We will have our recap show tomorrow. We'll go over what happened today, all the speculation around Bellinger, Tucker, Bregman, Walker, all the names that are out there, of course, via trade as well. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe, and let's get into it. Alrighty, so the Yankees have made a couple additions in the last couple of hours. They brought back Jonathan Loaisiga, who had some stiff competition anyway with the New York Mets. This time the Yankees coming out on top. I would say it's safe to bet that they would rather have won the Juan Soto sweepstakes, but I digress. That was still a great signing for the Mets, but the Yankees here get a nice bullpen arm, a guy who can come in and start in certain situations as well. Has experience with that Yankees team, with that starting rotation and in the bullpen. So we'll see how his one-year deal works out for the Yankees. The other bit of news is that the Yankees have helped a division rival. Their Boston Red Sox have acquired Carlos Narvaez in exchange for a minor league piece going back to New York. The Yankees basically trimming some room off of their 40-man roster here to kind of make room for the moves that they're going to make. Red Sox needed to add some catching depth after losing Kyle Teel in the trade for Garrett Crochet earlier today. So the Red Sox supplement some of that catching depth that they were needing. Do I think that's it for the Boston Red Sox as far as catchers? I don't. I think they're going to still go out there and try to make a move or two, possibly adding a third catcher somewhere down the line, somebody who can start the season in the minors and come up when necessary. But the Red Sox and Yankees very rarely make trades together, and they come together for this one. We saw one a couple of years ago with Alex Verdugo going back from the Red Sox to the Yankees. So, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they get together on trades, but it is very rare when it does happen. The big news item, of course, as Sean points to here, welcome in, Sean, is about Kyle Tucker. The Red Sox, the Yankees, the Cubs, pretty much any team in need of corner outfield help has checked in on Kyle Tucker. Phillies are also in that same market as they try to kind of shake up things there in Philadelphia, but the Yankees and Cubs are seen as the clear front runners there. No new developments yet. All teams are basically traveling back to their home cities, with the exception of the Rangers. They hosted the winter meetings. They had no traveling to do, so they were in no rush to get out of Dallas, of course. So all the other teams, the second all those other meetings were done with the winter meetings, they basically said, all right, we're out of here, and they already are on their way back home. So Cashman's already in New York, has already held a press conference being back in New York, and the winter meetings are over. Where do the teams stand? The Yankees, of course, have lost their second best player in Juan Soto to the New York Mets. But they've made some nice additions here. Max Fried was a good get for them. They're in the market for Bregman. They're in the market for Christian Walker and Kyle Tucker. We'll start with Kyle Tucker, the piece of that. The Yankees are looking to improve their roster. I think it's a little bit of a mistake here for them to try to trade for him, but they're looking to kind of change the narrative around the Yankees after losing in the Juan Soto sweepstakes. I think they're trying to really improve their offense. Tucker would absolutely be an improvement over what they currently have around Aaron Judge. But I think the more prudent move would be to go into free agency and use that financial wherewithal that they were going to use for Soto to try to bring in a Bregman, bring in a Walker, bring in Bellinger, whatever case, whichever target they value most as an offensive piece, that's where they should be going in free agency. Now, a trade, this is kind of shades of what they just did with Juan Soto from the San Diego Padres. I get that they're trying to improve their roster, but they spent so much in prospect capital to try to bring in Juan Soto only to lose him after 1 year for literally nothing. I'd be shocked if the Yankees, don't do something to try to fill the hole of Juan Soto. But I would think there's better ways to do it than going out and trying to trade for a Kyle Tucker. Is he going to help their team in 2025? Absolutely. But the big question for me when it comes to a Kyle Tucker trade, what are you going to have to give up? What type of contract is it going to take to get him? And are you getting an assurance from Kyle Tucker that he's not going to go into free agency? I don't think that's going to happen. I think Kyle Tucker is very happy to go in free agency and see what his price is on the open market. For me, I think we're looking at the San Francisco Giants being a serious competitor for his services after the season, but we shall see. I think Tucker's going to command a pretty penny. Isaac Paredes and Seiyu Suzuki are already in the package from the Chicago Cubs, and yet the Astros are still saying no to it. They want one of the last 2 first-round picks from the Chicago Cubs as well. To me, I would have already backed out if I'm the Cubs. At Paredes, I would have said, that's it, I'm done. Not because they don't necessarily value Kyle Tucker more than Paredes as far as an individual player, but I'm saying the contract value of Isaac Paredes is more valuable than the on-field value and the contract value of Kyle Tucker. Now, sure, it's a star power going to Chicago. I get why some Chicago fans would really like to see him there, but I don't see it from that standpoint as far as making sense on the field, making sense financially after 2025. Because just like the Yankees, they could lose him just like the Yankees could in free agency if the Giants come in, or if the Mets come in, if the Phillies come in at a higher number. All of those things are big unknowns right now, and to trade for that with 1 year of control is a big question mark for me, especially when you consider Bregman is still out there that would give you very similar production. Bregman's a better playoff performer as well. Soto, the guy that the Yankees just lost, was a great playoff performer for them. He had that incredible run, especially against the Guardians. He was probably the biggest reason why they won that series, and probably one of the biggest reasons why he got such a huge contract was his performance in that series specifically. But Kyle Tucker has struggled not just this past season in the playoffs anyway, but the last few seasons now in the playoffs. He's just not a big-time playoff performer. 162, he's been great. Injuries hurt him last year, only played in like 72, 74 games, something along those lines. I don't think he's necessarily injury-prone. I just think he had some issues last year. I don't think it's going to hamper him long-term. But those are some big questions you have to answer as well if you're giving up Isaac Paredes, a number 1 pick that you just drafted in the last couple of years, and Seiyu Suzuki, your top international free agent that you've ever signed. Big-time question marks for the Cubs, Yankees as well, depending on what they have to give up. Astros Twitter has been cryptic, tweeting videos of all the young guys without Tucker. Maybe what's yet to come. I think the Astros are going to try to retool a little bit at the winter meetings and thereafter now, since the winter meetings are over. I think we get to the trade deadline. If they're not in it, they could quickly try to peddle some of the pieces that they have on that roster. But Jim Crane has been sticking to a 5-6 year limit on long-term deals, and he doesn't necessarily like to pay at the top of the market. So do not be surprised if they're unable to bring back Valdez, if they're unable to bring back Tucker, if they're unable to bring back Bregman. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. And then as you get further down the line, Pena becomes a free agent in a couple of years. You got Alvarez in 3 years. Those are some big question marks they're going to have to answer after that, or after their current offseason. I think that's the long-term questions once they figure out Bregman and Tucker and Valdez. What are they going to do after 2025? What's their long-term plan to field a competitive team? Are they going to bottom out like they did to try to build up in the 2015-2016 range? Or are they going to try to keep this thing going and try to keep this thing afloat? With a Kyle Tucker trade, I think this would speak to the idea that they want to try to stay afloat, try to keep in contention the AL West. Maybe not necessarily a contender for the World Series, but very much a contender for the AL West crown, very much a wild card playoff team, not necessarily a team that's going to bottom out at, say, 50, 60 wins, or even the White Sox 40-something wins. But, the Astros, I think, have a chance here to retool on the fly and still remain competitive in a very difficult division in the AL West. Sarah, welcome back. Welcome back. Hey, Michael and everyone. I'm loving this. If the Yankees pull something off, I know your second favorite team is the Yankees. So the Yankees, I do like the addition of Max Fried on the 8-year, $218 million deal. I love the idea of them bringing in a first baseman, whether it be Christian Walker, a trade idea of Yandy Diaz or Nathaniel Lowe. Adding a third baseman, Alex Bregman makes some sense. Nolan Arenado makes some sense. Bellinger as well, as far as a center field first base target. I love all of those types of moves for the Yankees, and I think they have a chance to pivot really quickly after losing Juan Soto. It's not going to be one piece that replaces him, though. It's going to take a couple of pieces, and I think a stack of, say, like Bregman at third base and bringing in Lowe at first, allowing, say, a Tavares or a center fielder like Bellinger possibly to go in there. All of that would really help out, lengthen out that lineup, and provide them maybe a better all-around team, a better defensive team as well, especially now that they're bringing in a ground ball pitcher in Max Fried. They're going to need to put a premium on defense, especially on the left side of that infield. Tom Verducci essentially espousing as much on the MLB Network today. But I would look for guys who are more well-rounded baseball players rather than just the one-trick pony. The guy that can hit the ball 500 feet but struggles to make a put-out throw from second to first. Those are guys I think they need to steer clear of, and we'll see which direction they go. Cubs need to improve their roster when they trade Bellinger. That they do. I think freeing up the money from Bellinger is what's going to allow them to go into free agency and make the additions that they need to, both from the rotation standpoint and in that starting lineup. Any news on Tucker? Not as of yet. Teams are basically flying back to their homes. Sarah, I heard my Cardinals might bring back Kyle Gibson. I wouldn't be mad about it. Wouldn't be a bad signing for them. Wouldn't be a bad option to bring back Kyle Gibson anyway. I think he would be a good veteran leader for those young players on that roster. And if if you want to option him at some point or trade him at the deadline, you could easily trade him for, a bag of beans or whatever the case may be. But, and allow the young guys to really finish off the rest of the season. But I think he'd be a good veteran for that rotation. They already have several veterans in that rotation, though. I wonder if they'd be better served by going with younger pieces there. Jonathan, good night as a Mets fan with Crochet going to the Red Sox. Does this mean Corbin Burnes will not possibly be a Met? Reason being Stearns historically does not give long-term contracts to pitchers. Sounds like the Mets have kind of moved on from Corbin Burnes to a certain extent. They're centering their thoughts right now around Sean Manaea. Jack Flaherty as well has been piquing some interest there in with the New York Mets, as well as Walker Buehler. I wouldn't rule out a return for Max Scherzer as well. They're looking for a rotation upgrade. I think Manaea is the most likely right now. But the Red Sox initially, after the trade for Garrett Crochet, were thought to still be in there for Burnes. Then reports came out that we're going to stick back or hold back and try to bring back a Nick Pivetta. And now we're starting to get reports in the last couple hours that no, they never stepped out, that they're still in there for Burnes. So until Burnes signs somewhere else, I think every team that's been in that market for Burnes is still going to have a chance. Now, Mark Feinsand earlier this afternoon said the front runner for for Corbin Burnes' services was the Toronto Blue Jays. The Giants were a close second, according to him in his tweet that he put out around probably 3-4 o'clock this afternoon. A little bit of a surprise that it's the Blue Jays on top and not the Giants. I would have thought the Giants would have had a more competitive offer out there, but I really like the additions that the Giants have made with Willy Adames and now possibly Corbin Burnes. Blue Jays need to do something here. I think they need to add a bat. Red Sox look like a great fit right now on paper for Bregman, but so do the Toronto Blue Jays. We've talked about that quite a bit, how he would be a great piece for them. Even if they failed in 2025, they could obviously trade Vlad Guerrero Jr., trade Bo Bichette, and then you have your long-term answer in Alex Bregman at short. Those are all kinds of different possibilities that we could see, different permutations of how free agents could sign here after the winter meetings. Welcome in, George. Appreciate you joining us. If you guys are new here for the first time, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. It really does help us out. We've gained quite a few subscribers over the last 24 hours, so feel free to join us here. Do you believe Burnes is going to be a Giant or Blue Jays? I'm hoping for the Giants. If you believe the Feinsand report anyway, it's going to go to the Blue Jays. For me, though, I think there's going to be a certain point where I think where Burnes is going to look at it is they're just trying to win, for this one season. He's going to be signing for a long-term deal. I like the plan the Giants have in place more for a long-term perspective. That's why if I'm Corbin Burnes, I would probably sign with the San Francisco Giants. I would not have said that a year ago. Now, the Blue Jays are still a very competitive team. They're going to have a lot of money to throw at Corbin Burnes, and they aren't in a bad situation either. I mean, you're in a tough AL East division. You're going to be the guy in Canada if you go there from a pitching perspective, and I'd be curious to see what the rest of the team would look like around him in a year or two. That's why I would feel more comfortable myself going to San Francisco. But if the money's right, things work out, maybe you choose Toronto. There's no shortage of interest in Corbin Burnes. The bigger issue for Burnes turns to the Baltimore Orioles. We talked quite a bit about this in our last live video about 5-6 hours ago, if you guys want to check that one out. But just to kind of recap, a lot of the top free agent starters are off the board. The Orioles have gone out there in trade and acquired a couple of different starters in back-to-back years now, and ultimately have allowed them to leave in free agency. Burnes looks like he is on his way out. If you don't re-sign Corbin Burnes and at the last minute put in a really big offer and bring him back, you're left with Sean Manaea as the top free agent on the market. Then you're looking at Jack Flaherty, possibly Nick Pivetta, and then Andrew Heaney. None of those guys are number ones in a playoff series. So for me, the next guy on the list would be a trade candidate in Dylan Cease. At what point does the cost of the prospects you're losing in trade and the cost of whatever you're thinking that he might sign for in free agency become too much? I bring this up because not only are you losing prospects to bring in Burnes, now you're letting him go and you're not getting any compensation from him by letting him go sign somewhere else in free agency. Those are big problems that the Orioles are going to have to address, and they're going to have to address them probably by the end of this week. I think Burnes signs maybe even tonight, maybe tomorrow, but the Orioles really have some questions to answer when it comes to that pitching staff. Elias has been a great guy developing young prospects, pitching, minor league depth, those kinds of things. But when it comes to that major league roster, that's really where he started to struggle. He's got some really good players entering their prime, coming into their roster right now. Adley Rutschman's not going to be the everyday catcher for 10 years. He might be behind the plate for another 3 or 4 and really capitalize on the value of a great offensive piece behind the plate. Once you pull him out from behind the plate, his overall value diminishes. He's now just an everyday first baseman or a DH type. That decreases his value to your team and the impact he has by having that offense come from the catcher position and then having more offense come in at the first base DH spot. Because they would, say in 3-4 years, Adley Rutschman's no longer behind the plate. You have decreased abilities behind the plate offensively. Gunnar Henderson's in the prime of his career. Holiday's already on your roster at that point. And you've peddled several prospects away to take away from the depth of that team to continue to add pitchers to that rotation because you're not willing to invest in free agency. At a certain point, you're not going to have enough prospects to be able to go out there and get the guys you need at the deadline or in the offseason to help have that controllable starting pitcher. Now, maybe the long-term solution here is if you're not comfortable going after high-impact starters in the free agent market, to go after more controllable starting pitchers. Not guys with 1 or 2 years left on their deal, but guys who are just breaking into the big leagues and see if you can overwhelm that team with a significant offer. Now, it's going to be massive. If you find, for instance, like a Brian Wu, he's got a lot of value for the Seattle Mariners. Whereas a guy like the Luis Castillo is getting paid about what he's worth to the Mariners right now. So his trade value is a little bit less, but you've already shown a unwillingness to pay top dollar for starting pitching. Do you then go with a Brian Wu, even though it's going to cost you more in prospect capital, cost you less financially, and you would easily slot in as probably your number 3 starter right now, and you're hoping he blossoms into a number 1. But, that's the kind of thought process the Orioles are going to have to consider if they're not willing to go into free agency and spend on Corbin Burnes. That's where I want to hear y'all Orioles fans, teams that miss out on their re-signing their own guys after they trade assets for them. We just saw what happened with the New York Yankees. They brought in Juan Soto, traded away 5 pieces to go to the San Diego Padres to bring him in. Sure, they still got Trent Grisham, but, come on. The trade was for Juan Soto, and they lose him for next to nothing to go to the New York Mets. You're going to see him every single day in your city putting up those kind of numbers for your rival. Just incredible the way the Yankees took a big gamble here on Juan Soto and missed. Now they're thinking about doing the same thing here with Kyle Tucker, who's going to go to free agency. Will they miss again? Will the Orioles miss here on Burnes? Will they ever invest in a starting pitcher on the free agent market? Those are some of the big question marks right now around the industry. In case you guys were unable to watch the news earlier today, Garrett Crochet was the big news item. He goes from the Chicago White Sox in a 5-player deal that sends 4 prospects. All 4 of them are in the top 15 of the Boston Red Sox system. They get the number 4, 5, I believe 11, and 15 or 14 prospects from the Boston Red Sox. Really good get. They get a good catcher, good infielder, good high-quality hitter, plate discipline, and another piece as well. Really like the deal for the Chicago White Sox, getting some position players who have a little less variation in whether or not they're going to make it at the big league level than, say, pitchers do. Pitchers are a little bit more volatile as to whether or not they're going to work out, but if they do, you really can strike it rich in a trade like this. They chose to go with more position player quantity. There was offers on the table for higher level prospects from the Boston Red Sox, including Marcelo Mayer. They chose to go with a more quantitative approach to this rather than quality. Rather than put all their eggs in the Mayer basket, they decided to disperse it among a few more prospects. So really like the deal here for the Chicago White Sox. On the Boston end of things, still wonder about whether or not Crochet is the real deal. As he's only really done it for 1 year. Is he going to be able to stay healthy? How many innings is he really going to be able to eat? What kind of contract is it going to cost to be able to keep him? And now the Red Sox are still looking to add a little bit more starting pitching. One other bit of news that I wanted to get to was the Texas Rangers, who ended up being one of the most active teams at the winter meetings this year. Yankees, I think, at the very end overtook them, at least with the signing of Loaiziga and the trade of Narvaez. But Yankees made several moves as well. But the Texas Rangers, they were able to bring back Nathan Eovaldi, 3 years, $75 million. Late last night, they made the trade for Jake Burger for 3 minor league prospects. Their roster currently sits at 40 right now because they also made an addition to their bullpen. Not a closer, but somebody who was non-tendered by the Baltimore Orioles. They brought in Jacob Webb, who has really struggled in his time against the Texas Rangers. It sounds like he wanted to go to Texas so he didn't have to face them anymore. At least that was some of the joking comments made by some of the media members around the Texas Rangers. But he's been very good. Strikeout to walk ratio is a little bit concerning for me. I wonder if he'll have some control issues. But those are some of the moves we've seen over the last 24 to 48 hours. Other moves, we saw the Pirates yesterday bring in Spencer Horwitz. Really like that move. I do not think the Pirates are done, though. I think they're going to go in the trade market. I proposed a trade on here last night, sending Nathaniel Lowe to the Pittsburgh Pirates in exchange for some minor league prospects. Rangers would then clear up $11 million in salary. That would allow them to go out there and get an impact relief pitcher. Chris Young, in his post-winter meetings press conference, said essentially that they weren't looking for another starter outside of Roque Sasaki right now, but they were always going to keep the door open if an opportunity fell into their lap. That's what happened when they brought in Nathan Eovaldi the first time, and so now I think they're going to do something very similar here. If they're the winners of the Roque Sasaki sweepstakes, hats off to Chris Young and that organization. Hats off to the Padres if they get him. Any team who gets Roque Sasaki should get a big round of applause, especially if they're not the Dodgers. Dodgers have been seen as the heavy favorite from the outset of this. It'll be very curious to see where he goes, but remember, we've got to wait till January 15th for that to happen. One last bit of news that's been coming down over the last couple of hours. The Reds have been kicking their tires on a couple of different starters. Nick Pivetta is now the guy that they're kicking the tires on as well. Sarah, I love you getting Eovaldi and Berger. That was huge for your Rangers. I couldn't agree more. More consistency in that starting rotation is what the Rangers were really hoping for first and foremost. They needed to add a bat, and oh, by the way, they did so on a league minimum contract with Jake Burger. Really like that addition. 4 years of control here, and I think that's why now Nathaniel Lowe is looked at as a little bit more expendable than he was a day ago. I'm not saying the Rangers are looking to move him. I'm not saying that the Rangers should look to move him. I'm just saying that the opportunity is there if they want to reinvest that money elsewhere, because Lowe would catch a fair price on the open market. Yankees would be another team I think would be a great fit for Nathaniel Lowe. There's not too many first basemen on the market that are of similar quality to Nathaniel. To me, Pete Alonso's probably going to go back to the New York Mets. That leaves Christian Walker. The Astros are interested in him. Yankees, of course. Diamondbacks would like to bring him back. Other teams looking for a first base upgrade, like the Seattle Mariners, have been connected at certain points as well. Basically, teams that are in the market for Bellinger are also in the market for Christian Walker. So anytime you see Bellinger's name, also include Walker in that argument as well. But appreciate you guys joining us this afternoon, this evening. It's been a lot of fun covering the winter meetings. We'll still be live with you guys again tomorrow night. We'll be live around 8 o'clock. We'll probably do another live earlier in the day as well for those of you who are on your lunch break. You want to talk some baseball. I'm hoping we'll get a few more transactions here in the next 12 hours. My expectation is Burnes will likely sign in the next 12 to 24 hours. And also Alex Bregman. Bregman is seen as the most likely to sign next of the top flight free agents out there. Red Sox, Yankees, Blue Jays, all in the mix for him, and Phillies as well. Huge Eovaldi fan. I don't think there's anybody who's not. He's a stand-up guy, high character individual in the locker room. Really good mentor to a lot of the young pitchers on the Rangers staff the past couple of years, and just a really great guy. really good story to follow as well. Injury issues, inability to strike out guys and struggle early on in his career. And then he found his stride. Even with that high fastball velocity, he wasn't striking out guys at the rates he was expecting to when he was younger. He's found a way to pitch. He's found what works for him. And he looks a lot more durable than he did when he was younger, when he was having arm issues. Now he's getting older. He's going to have some injuries. I'm not saying he's going to make 30, 32 starts a year, but I'm saying he's probably the most consistent performer the Rangers could hope for in that rotation, especially when you consider the injury risks with DeGrom, Molly, and others. So a lot of youth coming into the rotation next year for Texas as well. Mark, Seattle has been strangely silent. Absolutely. Jerry DePoto is one of the most active president of baseball ops, GMs, whatever you want to call him anyway, in the business. It's very unlike him to be this quiet. I wonder if he's working on something a little bit bigger. Alec Boehm, perhaps, from the Philadelphia Phillies. Possibly a trade of Luis Castillo. There are opportunities out there for him to try to improve this roster. Bellinger's been one of the names they've been connected to. Over the last 24 hours, the biggest name they've been discussing anyway, at least in the national media, is their offer, their committee that they could send, their entourage that they could send to meet with Rohei Sasaki. It's going to be an impressive presentation that they're going to put in front of him. And the reports that we had from Japan, anyway, is that he didn't exactly get along with the Japanese media, didn't enjoy the pressure of the environment. So teams in big markets, I'm not saying that they're out of the running for Sasaki. I'm just saying it's another layer that that Sasaki's going to have to consider when they sign him. Now, his agent has already come out and said he's looking to go pretty much wherever the best opportunity is for him, and Sasaki is going to be the one that makes the decision. The money is going to be neutral. All the teams are going to be able to make the offer, that any other team can make. And so it's just going to be about where he feels is the best fit for him. The teams that are seen as the favorites for him heavily favor the Dodgers, but it's still going to be the Padres, the Rangers, the Giants, and the Mariners as seen as the next four. And then you get the Cubs, Mets, Yankees on the periphery of that argument as well. A number of other teams are going to take meetings, but we've got about a month and change before we get any news on that front. But appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. Been a quiet last couple of hours, but if we get some more news tonight, we'll go live in case we do get a Corbin Burnes or an Alex Bregman signing. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe, and thank you guys for joining us over the last couple of weeks. It's been a lot of fun covering Major League Baseball with you guys, and we're going to keep covering it after the winter meetings. Every weekday, we're going to have a live for you guys around 8, 9 o'clock every weekday. And since I'm off the rest of the week here, I'm going to try to do a couple of lives during lunches for you guys as well. Keep you guys updated on what's happening. But thank you guys for being a part of this journey. It's been a lot of fun. Today actually marks the 3-year anniversary of our channel. We first posted our first ever video. We have come a very, very, very long way from, starting with scripted content and, using a different form or using different software to even make our videos. We've come a long way. We've invested a lot in this channel. It's still a work in progress as far as getting it to where I want the show to get to. And, I appreciate your support, your encouragement along the way. The winter meetings are always fun to cover with you guys. Do that every year for baseball. I request off every single year to cover it with you guys here. And, I try to cover every single trade deadline with you guys as well. It's been a lot of fun for 3 years. Let's hope for another one this year, another great year going forward. And, hopefully, we'll get, we're at 1,700 subscribers right now. Hopefully by, say, another month or two, we can get to the 2,000 mark and really take off. So it's been a lot of fun, and here's to another year of Upside Sports Network. So thank you guys. Y'all have a great evening. Thank you for support, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow night. Mark, how was that 14-hour day? It was very long. We had a work day on Saturday last week anyway, this past Saturday, and Mark's asking how that day went. I had work with customers all day long and then do inventory all night, and let's just say I needed a couple of ice packs after the day. It was a long one, so got to sit down and talk some baseball with you guys after that. I was kind of surprised that some moves happened right as I was about to get on, and so we did that. I believe I'm trying to remember if I did that or if that was the next day. Anyway, then the next day we get the Juan Soto signing. That was a lot of fun to cover with you guys. 15 years, $765 million, the greatest contract ever in Major League or in professional sports history. So that was pretty cool to cover with you guys. Literally 5 seconds after I logged off on Sunday, that was pretty funny. Jeff Passan, I literally remember your tweet, and I will probably remember that for a while now. So that was pretty fun. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content, have some fun with baseball, and get back to enjoying sports the way we all used to enjoy them before it became soundbite city and highlight shows and that kind of a thing. I love this kind of discourse we have with you guys, so it's been a lot of fun being able to talk sports with you guys. JG, Mark, Vinny, Sarah, I know I'm leaving out like a million other people who have contributed. Tim, I know you've been joining us a lot the last few days. Cobra at one point. There's so many names that y'all have or that y'all comment in our stream, and I try to recognize y'all when you do comment and read your comment, and as long as we're respectful, of course. But we've come a long way. Today's our 3-year anniversary. Here's to another great year. Y'all have a great evening. We'll be with you guys again tomorrow during lunch. To keep you guys updated in case anything else happens tonight, be sure to turn on your alerts. If Bregman or Burnes sign, we'll be live. So thank you guys for joining us here at The Upside. We'll see you soon.